Hello there, and thank you for joining us from wherever you are. We're coming to you live from our studios in Kokomlimle. Our digital address GA0992539. Our top stories this hour. Cerebral spinal meningitis kills 3 more people, making total number of deaths 43, with 273 cases recorded. We are live in the region where the minister reiterates treatments for the disease as free because people show up to hospitals too late. Education is the key, they say, but even that has given way to COVID-19. This afternoon, we put the spotlight on education in COVID-19. What are you doing and what are your children doing too? E-learning or no learning? How can government improve your experience? We're live with Deputy Education Minister for some answers. And have you had an egg today? You should, because health experts say that is an effective immune booster, especially now in COVID-19. We have a package on this. Join us on DSTV 421, GoTV 144. And remember, we are streaming live on YouTube. Join us with your thoughts, opinion, and comment on 0540-109-009. My name is Gifty Ando Apia. This is The Pulse. Please be my guest. You're welcome. I'll take you through the details of those stories now. We start with CSM. The death toll from the outbreak of cerebral spinal meningitis in the Upper West region has risen to 43 from the previous 40, with infections currently standing at 273. Government has deployed a team of top governmental health officials to the region to deal with the matter. Upper West Regional Minister Dr. Hafiz bin Salih has been briefing journalists in the region on the latest deaths. Rafiq Salam is our Upper West Region correspondent. He will join me shortly with more, but he's been speaking with the minister. Listen.
Upper West Regional Minister Dr. Hafiz bin Salih since last week has been meeting members of the various public health epidemic committees in the region to abreast himself with the issue of the cerebrospinal meningitis (CSM) and the COVID-19 pandemic. The Cerebral municipality is one of the hardest areas hit by the CSM in the region, with a recorded death of 7 persons.
We had our first CSM case in January 9, 2020, and since then we have had 50 suspected cases. 16 were positive cases, and out of which 7 deaths.
On COVID-19, the municipality is yet to record a case, as they have employed several strategies to ensure that suspicious characters who enter the municipality are reported to the appropriate authorities.
Anybody coming in, everybody is too keen to identify cases, and so any stranger coming, we are notified because they have our hotlines. There are rumors everywhere that we do follow up to ensure that what they are saying is either true or not true, but just to allay the anxiety of people.
Upper West Regional Minister Dr. Hafiz bin Salih described the death of the 40 persons in the region through CSM as worrying and urged the people to seek early treatment, as treatment for the disease is free.
And the good news is that for the treatment of CSM, it is completely free. The medicine that is used for its management, they were donated to us free of charge. So we expect that when they are being administered, it should be free of charge.
The regional minister then moved to the Lora municipality, where he called on the paramount chief of the Lora traditional area, Napo Wile Kabu III. Napo Wile Kabu III, who initially was not comfortable with the number of deaths recorded on CSM in the region, was however hopeful that strategies put in place by the health authorities will yield the desired results.
In your monitoring, you should start educating us early before the temperatures begin to rise. We appreciate the fact that the virus is mutating and therefore creating problems about the medicine that we use to treat it. But If we go back to history, you will see that the chiefs played very key roles in getting the people to understand this. For a long time, we had thought that CSM has been kicked out of this place. But alas, it is not the case. But we are happy that the health people are putting in appropriate structures, and we as traditional authorities are there. And personally, I would like to cooperate with I will cooperate with my district health directorate to see that our people are educated to report the cases early enough so that it can be treated.
The minister climaxed his day at the Laura municipality with a meeting with members of the Laura Municipal Public Health Epidemic Committee. Reporting for JoyNews, Rafik Salam, Jiroba.
Rafik Salam joins me now via Zoom so we can have more on this rather worrying situation in the Upper West region. Hello, Rafik.
Hello, Gifty.
Rafik, let's start with government's delegation. What really is the composition of this delegation, and what are they supposed to do exactly?
This is the delegation led by Deputy Minister of Health, Dr. Oko Boy, who is in the region. Is also a sequel to other visits to the region by the director in charge of disease control and infectious disease last week. The Upper West Region Minister met the overlord of the Wallet area, now for seeing the people, the FOB, and also some members of the regional and municipal emergency management committees. And so basically, it's, according to Dr. Okoboy, it's a visit that he wants to do a close review of how prepared are these emergency committees to fight the COVID-19 and cerebral spinal meningitis CSM.
Okay, Rafik, thank you for that. But how long are they supposed to stay in the region?
It's a 2-day official working visit to the Upper West region by Dr. Oko. And then as I speak to you now, he's currently about leaving Jiroba. After meeting with the regional minister, he met the one and also moved straight to Jiroba, who serves as the epicenter for this cerebral spinal meningitis. So he went there, met the municipal chief executive, Christian Bomanja Amadou, and then also after that he met members of the municipal public health epidemic management committee, and also met staff of the Jiroba St. Joseph Hospital. And these nurses have been talking about some challenges that are facing in their fight against the COVID-19 pandemic and the CSM epidemic. And so basically the challenges have to do with their allowances and also some logistics to fight the COVID-19 and the CSM.
Have they had any responses from this government delegation, or in other words, what is the government delegation telling them?
Dr. Oko didn't mince words. He said government is really serious about not fighting only the COVID-19 pandemic, but they're also fighting CSM and also other infectious diseases. And so government has not put its eyes off the ball, and they are serious, much concerned about the CSM, because the people in the region is unacceptable, and so they will do everything within their means to ensure that the lives of the people in the Upper West region are safe.
Rafik, let's focus more on the people now, the people who are suffering from CSM at the moment. The minister had to reiterate that the treatment is free, because we know that health experts there have raised concerns about how late people report to the hospitals. Is it that people think that they have to pay for treatment, which is why they're going to the hospitals late? Why? Why was it even necessary for the minister to reiterate that it is free?
I think that all these things have to boil down to education. You know, CSM usually occurs in this region between November and then April. I think that the education on the disease was also on the low side. They have not done a lot of education on the disease. And so even people went to bed, and we thought that CSM was even eradicated from the system until the whole region were quite flat-footed on that particular issue. And so, yes, some, you know, I spoke to one person who was suspected to have disease, and they thought that at first it was, they didn't think that their case was even medical. And so people were not ready to go to these health facilities under those conditions. And even when we were, when we met Dr. Osekofo Afre, the Upper West Regional Director of Health Services, he said that, on the issue of COVID-19, they are asking people to stay at home. And so people have construed this stay at home with CSM. So people may have been having the disease, but they will be stay at home. So he's saying that people are really confused in the region when we talk about stay at home. Stay at home here means COVID-19, but as for CSM, you have to go to the nearest facilities, health facilities, for you to be treated. And so the minister also reiterated the point, yes, it's something that he's rehashing for the people to know that CSM is, when treated, is free.
If you live in this region, Upper West region, I'd love to hear from you. Send us a message. Rafiq Salam is joining us from there, bringing us up to speed on the situation there with cerebral spinal meningitis, which has killed 43 people. Rafiq, I want to find out from you, if I understand what you're saying correctly, it looks like there's been lack of rigorous education about CSM. It looks like there are also spiritual, the fact that people who live there link this disease to spirituality rather than health has also added to the number of deaths and the number of infections we've recorded. And then there's lack of clarity in the messages between COVID-19 and CSM. If I understand you clearly, these are the main reasons why we're recording these. But Rafiq, I'm still with you. But this is not a disease. This disease is not new to the region. Is it only COVID-19 that's creating the confusion, or is there something really wrong that is not having the attention needed?
I will put it on the education side, because to be honest with you, there have been low education regarding CSM. Okay. Over the years, what usually happens is that people around November, December, people are encouraged not to sleep in poorly ventilated areas. People are encouraged to even sleep outside for their rooms because if we don't have funds. But I can tell you that the past 3-4 months, I haven't heard even any radio message or any public gathering, these health practitioners talking about this key message that people need to sleep at places that are well ventilated. And then also, the other issue, like I told you about, has to deal with this issue of the spirituality. And then you have people who think that this disease is not medical, but they think that it's also spiritual. And then lastly, like I told you, has to deal with the COVID-19 message, which means that stay at home if you have anything to do important outside. And so those people who are having the CSM, CSM has similar symptoms like that of COVID-19, okay. And so whatever that you do to get CSM, when you do that, you can get COVID-19. And so people misinterpret this information when they say stay at home, and then when they have the CSM, they stay at home and they're not going to facilities.
Rafiq, thank you for that update. Rafiq Salam is coming to us live from Wa via Zoom. Like I said, if you live in this area, I want to hear from you. What is your own story? What do you think will help deal with the rising infection rate of cerebral spinal meningitis in a region that has killed 43 people so far? Let's go back to COVID-19, one of the key issues that we're having to deal with, of course. And even if you're talking about CSM, it looks like there's a little bit of COVID-19 there. Like Rafiq said, the mixed messaging seems to be confusing people there. On COVID-19, following this outbreak, the World Health Organization has outlined a simple, frequent hand washing and the running water with soap as one of the preventive measures in contracting the virus. Now, it's prescribed the use of Veronica buckets for that preventive measure. However, many rural folk, due to impoverished lifestyles, are unable to purchase Veronica buckets for use to ensure their safety. JoyNews' Fred Kwame Asari reports that most rural dwellers in the Volta region have resorted to the use of tippy taps, a hands-free hand-washing device to safeguard themselves against COVID-19 infection. Take a look.
Amfueta Bogame is home to about 1,000 rural dwellers in the whole West District of the Volta region. Though residents are lucky to have a mechanized borehole serving the community, not every household is connected to the facility. Some residents, therefore, have to fetch water at the community center and save at home for use. This, coupled with their inability to purchase Veronica buckets, makes it difficult for them to observe the World Health Organization's directive on frequent hand washing under running water with soap to protect oneself against contracting the coronavirus. Tip-It-Up, a hands-free hand-washing device introduced by UNICEF, has become an alternative for residents here in Amfueta, Bogame. The device, which is cheap and easy to build, has been erected in every home here and in other rural communities across the region. It is made of local materials like stick, syringe, container, and soap. Tip-It-Up is operated by a foot lever connected to the water container, thereby reducing transmitting of pathogens. Mercy Jalili and her household could not afford a Veronica bucket, hence have resorted to the use of a Tip-It-Up to protect themselves against coronavirus infection. Nonetheless, the Amfueta Youth Development Association presented some hand hygiene items to the traditional authorities to be situated at vantage points in their community. Maclean Ngoji is the spokesperson for the association.
We value the life of our members and then that of our families in the community. So we want, in our little efforts, we want to bring out these coronavirus preventive measures. We donated, as you've seen today, we've donated a lot of Veronica buckets to the community.
Paramount Chief of Amfueta, Togbe Kwesi Debra, lauded the gesture.
We are so overwhelmed by what the gesture we have, put in place. And we are all scared about the coronavirus disease. We really don't know what to do. So we were very much overwhelmed when they approached us with the items you all can see here to enable us to fight this deadly disease.
Fred Kwame Asari, JoyNews, Amfueta, Bogame.
Wherever you are, if people are making do with Tip-It-Ups, what are you doing to keep yourself safe? The Ghana Blind Union has called for relief packages uniquely tailored for persons with disabilities in the wake of COVID-19 outbreak. Executive Director for the union, Dr. Peter Obeng-Asamoah, said many PWDs or persons living with disabilities are yet to benefit from food, PPEs and economic assistance packages being rolled out by government. He was speaking on the sidelines of a donation made by the CSO platforms on sustainable development goals today. Dr. Asamoah told JoyNews all are at risk if the vulnerable are ignored.
We are grateful that some organizations like the Civil Society platform today have come to our aid, and they brought us some food support which we will give to our members. But I must say that, we need to have more of this support coming from government side, okay, for our members. Because, look, the initial distributions like that, many of our members didn't benefit from these things. Because we are most of the time indoors and we are not getting the information. The Ministry of Gender doesn't work directly with the Ghana Blind Union. They work through the National Disability Council and then through the Ghana Federation of the Disabled. But so far, I must say that we would have liked the coordination to have been better, a little more, because we've not really, our members haven't really received the kind of special and targeted attention we think we should be receiving. You understand that persons with disability, and for that matter, blind people, we are very special people. We are very targeted. So you need to have a special targeted approach that will deal with our situation. So if you just lump us into persons with vulnerable when you are distributing things, it's likely that in most cases, blind people will not be able to access that kind of support. That is why we law this kind of thing that comes directly to us, and then we will know how to get to our members. But if it's not done in this way, then it's a problem. We are also observing the social protocols and all that that concerning with this COVID outbreak and things. But as I said, some of our, or most of our membership need that kind of targeted attention. For example, you come to distribution of face masks, we need to have that kind of support. Many of our people may not be able to access these face masks for themselves. I mean, even to buy it. So we need to have that kind of support. These what do you call hand sanitizers and things. We need to see more targeted distribution at that. You understand? And then hopefully we would also like to see the government, when you are talking about economic support, economic stimulus packages and things, you'd also remember that there are persons with disability who also need to benefit from these economic stimulus packages, so that we're able to build our financial security up ourselves and also contribute to our own support and that of the nation. And our safety is the safety of the nation, because we are the vulnerable groups, and if the nation doesn't support its vulnerable, what happens to the vulnerable will affect everybody else later.
For his part, the Deputy Secretary for General Agricultural Workers Union of TUC, a part of the CSO, Andrew Tego, said the contributions are in response to President Akufo-Addo's call for all institutions to come on board in the fight against COVID-19. Similar donations were made in Jamestown and Abilinkwe in Accra.
I work for the General Agricultural Workers Union, Gawu, as the Deputy General Secretary, but also a member of the CSO's platform on the SDGs, where we are working with a number of NGOs or civil society organizations on the Sustainable Development Goal platform. And we have raised funds in response to COVID-19 to also as our contribution to ensure that the needy, those who are vulnerable, those who are most affected, the hard to reach communities, we have raised funds and then we are giving out. And this also in response to the President's call for all of us to be, not to be spectators, but to be Ghanaians. So this is the what we can do as civil society groups and the unions under the SDG. We have these programs in the Ashanti region and then in the Greater Accra region, where the two cities that were locked down. Greater Accra region actually is here, and then Kaswa, and we have a number of NGOs. The Gamashi Development Association is our team that is coordinating the receipt of the items presented by Brother Solomon. We have received 52 bags of rice, some water, over 50 gallons of oil, some vitamin C for the kids, and then we also have locally produced soap. One of the things that informed our buying is that everything we buy as much as possible must be produced in Ghana, must be made in Ghana. And that is what we are coming to give to our case today. So that is some donations going on there. What are you doing in your own small way to help in these very difficult times for everybody? I asked those of you who live in areas like the Upper West region, where they've recorded 43 deaths out of cerebral spinal meningitis, to share your messages with me. Once you do, I'll share it with the rest of the world. I think you've sent some of them, but right, let's see what we have here before we move on to our next story. This one says, I have tested COVID-19 at Wager, but I haven't received the result 3 weeks ago. Okay, thanks for sending your message in. Let's keep waiting and see. Good afternoon, Gifty. Frankly speaking, if the government will save the public purse as he pledged by completing all the health projects which were started by the previous government, I don't think we will need any more health projects in our country. He should not campaign if it comes to
COVID-19. If it comes to update us on COVID-19, keep sending your messages, especially those of you who live in the Upper West region. Now, the World Immunization Week is celebrated every year in the last week of April and aims at promoting the use of vaccines to protect people of all ages against diseases. This year's week-long celebration is taking place at a time when the whole world is battling the novel coronavirus pandemic that is claiming thousands of lives and destroying economies worldwide. Ghana has and is still enjoying a remarkable coverage of vaccination against preventable diseases for its citizens, particularly children. The estimated coverage rate for 11 out of 13 currently introduced vaccines in 2018 averaged 87%. The sustainability of this feat could be threatened if a source of domestic financing is not guaranteed quickly. In this respect, the Ghana Immunization Advocacy Initiative IAI network is adopting the global event with the aim of demanding government responsiveness to immunization funding and its utilization to ensure availability of vaccines. That sounds like a lot, but we'll break it down because I have someone joining me via Zoom, Cecilia Seno. She's Executive Director, Hope for Future Generation, also part of the advocacy team championing this agenda, comprising Send, Hope for Future, etc. Ms. Cecilia is on the via Zoom with me. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, and good afternoon to you and your listeners.
Well, it seems that Ghana is doing well in terms of immunization, but you still see a general concern, something that will threaten all that we have done if we don't look at it. Take us through briefly these concerns.
Okay. And so Ghana has quite a very high immunization coverage, but our immunization interventions are mostly sponsored by donors. And as we move on as a country and as a middle-low income, most of these donors, especially Gavi, who is our major funder of immunization, is likely to fold up. And so that will mean that Ghana has to look for resources to cover immunization in the country for children. And as you are aware, immunization is a right. It is on this that we are calling on government to allocate domestic resources to own immunization for our children. We are a consortium of 3 organizations and other organizations, Send Ghana, Hope for Future Generations, Coalition of NGOs in Health, Social Health Ghana, WAF, and then Ghana Registered Midwives Association. We have come together calling on government to allocate domestic resources to sustain immunization coverage in Ghana.
Right.
We believe that if children are not immunized, anything that happens, any preventable disease or any disease that can be are the first to get it. So we want to own it.
I just want to find out whether the coalition has engaged any of the government institutions in your particular areas. Have you engaged? What do they tell you? What has the feedback been like?
There has been a lot of engagement. We are still engaging. We are working as a consortium. You know, we are together and we are working as a strong force to engage government. In fact, the COVID-19 has really lowered a lot of interventions we put in place. But before that, we have done a lot of discussion engagement with EPI, Ghana Health Service, and then Ministry of Health. Coalition is part of a number of those platforms. So there has been a lot of engagement. They've been part of our meetings, and there's a lot of promise. We just want to encourage the president and the whole country to ensure that the promise that they have made to Ghanaians and Ghanaian children, we fulfill it, and that is what we are calling on government and reminding them that they should not forget the promise.
Well, hopefully you will get that response very soon. Like you said, you rightly said, COVID-19 seems to have overshadowed everything else that we're doing, but hopefully there'll be some response. Mrs. Cecilia, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. We'll come back to you, I'm sure, when there is a response to this. Cecilia Seno is the Executive Director of Hope for Future Generation. They're part of a coalition of NGOs pushing for more financing or funding from government towards immunization across the country. I'll take a break here. When I return, I give you the global outlook. What does it look like worldwide? And what are other countries doing to support COVID-19 response systems across the world? You know, we'll be with our partners, the DW in Germany, for that one, and we'll bring you an update on what's happening globally. We're also having a big conversation about education in COVID-19. Send in your comments, your thoughts. I'll have the Deputy Education Minister answering all of those. I'll take a quick break. I'll be right back. Do stay. Welcome back to the show. Many thanks for continuing to stay with us. Now we do Germany, because the country has donated 300 million euros, mostly to UN agencies, to help countries that are particularly vulnerable now during the coronavirus pandemic. The country has also announced what it is calling a rapid and targeted action in numerous African countries in an effort of solidarity in these hard times. One of the projects is in Ghana. Others are in Malawi and Benin. We'll focus on what's happening here in Ghana. But Thomas Sparrow is here from Berlin with more. And he joins me. We'll start by asking what exactly is this 300 million. Thomas, it's good to have you. What exactly is this 300 million targeted at? Is it, would you say, a response, for example, to President Donald Trump's position that he will not support countries for organizations like WHO? Has it anything to do with it at all?
Hello, Gifty. Nice to talk to you this time from our studios in the heart of Berlin. And as you mentioned correctly, Germany has donated that money to the UN mostly, although other organizations, other international aid organizations as well. And it is actually a response to a petition and to a warning by the United Nations that a lot of money is needed. In fact, they said it was around, a lot of money is needed essentially to help those countries that are most vulnerable from the coronavirus. Basically countries that are, for example, war-torn or have been affected by a conflict, or also populations that are at risk, for example, migrants, asylum seekers, refugees. And as such, most of the money is going to organizations within the United Nations framework that have to deal with these kinds of issues. So the World Food Programme, for example, the WHO also as well, the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, another organization that is receiving money from this. But again, this is only part of what United Nations has said that it needs to be able to help countries that are most vulnerable and that will be particularly affected by the coronavirus outbreak. But this was news that actually came yesterday on Sunday here in Germany. Important news because Germany has said that solidarity, international solidarity, is particularly important at this time. And that's one of the elements why Germany has also focused on this aspect of solidarity in a multilateral framework. Right. So essentially not only giving the money on its own, but making sure that that money flows through the United Nations and through United Nations organizations, and then through those organizations to the countries that are most affected.
Interesting, because also experts have said that no one country can deal with this on their own. So the world solidarity is very necessary. But Thomas, let's talk about this rapid and targeted action in Africa. What exactly does it entail? And is it different from this donation that's going to the UN and its organizations?
It is different, Gifty, and this also responds to something that you and I have discussed on various occasions here on this program, that idea that Germany, but also Europe as a whole, has to work hand in hand with Africa. And there have been different developments in this area. And now, obviously, when we're talking about the coronavirus issue, a global issue per definition, an absolutely important issue everywhere in the world, and Germany also believes that it's important to share expertise, to discuss different issues, and wherever possible to try and help. You mentioned some of the areas in Africa where Germany has been trying to help. I can give you some more details on that. For example, Malawi, help from Germany trying to set up isolation wards for COVID-19 patients. In Benin, for example, training laboratory staff, and in particular the case that we discussed on Ghana, it refers to the Kumasi Center for Collaborative Research in Tropical Research. And the support there is particularly to modernize the facilities and to procure medical equipment and medical facilities. The goal behind all that is to increase testing capacity. That's something that was revealed by German authorities, in particular by the German Foreign Ministry, as one concrete key example of how Germany in this particular situation, in this global challenge that we're talking about, can actually help particular countries around the world.
Well, we also know that there's been some secondment, staff on secondment, we understand, from Germany who have been working at the Kumasi Center for the Research. So that's a good thing. And it'll be interesting to see how it all pans out. Hopefully, with the days coming along, you'll be able to give us a breakdown of exactly what it is. But today, you are not at home. You are in office. You are in the office, Thomas. Have the restrictions been finally totally eased?
No, they haven't been totally eased. The reason why we're here today is because step by step, very carefully, Germany is indeed easing some of its restrictions. Only very few of those restrictions, or most of the restrictions, are actually still in place. Social distancing measures, and in fact, there are new, in a way, restrictions that have been added, because as of today, as of this week, all 16 German federal states have a compulsory requirement for Germans to wear face masks on public transport. And as of this week, in most German federal states, people also have to wear face masks when shopping, when going into different shops. That has to obviously do with the fact that some of the other restrictions have been slowly eased, whether we're talking about the reopening of certain shops or the gradual reopening of schools, measures like that. But we can certainly not say that Germany has now eased absolutely everything and that Germany is back to normal. On the contrary, most of the most important restrictions are still in place. The social distancing, as I mentioned, or restaurants still being closed, museums still being closed. There's a big discussion here as to when all this can and should happen. So when should, for example, restaurants or museums or the big institutions open, when mass events should be allowed. This is a very big discussion here in Germany, but as of now, Germany has maintained that there is a need for a gradual, very careful reopening, very careful also easing of those restrictions. And it has to be careful, Gifty, because there is also a concern that if you do it too quickly, then people will obviously go out and continue with their lives as normally as possible, and that could then lead to numbers going up. And this is something that Germany, and by the way, other countries that have taken similar measures, are trying not only to analyze, but to prevent. On the one hand, they do want slowly, step by step, to go back to normal. But on the other hand, they want to make sure that only happens if numbers continue to go down and if the health system in the respective country is still obviously in good condition and under no circumstance overwhelmed.
Careful and slow easing of restrictions. Well, I tell you what, we have a few similarities here. Here in Ghana, it's also sort of mandatory to wear face masks, but that's for government institutions say, and private institutions are all saying, we will not admit you if you're not wearing a mask. So it's interesting to know that we share this. Hopefully the world will get better and there won't be any more madness. Thomas, thank you so much for coming through this afternoon. Thomas Sparrow is political correspondent with our partners DW, joining us all the way from Berlin. Well, this is what's happening on the world front. What are you doing? Well, here in Ghana, we are trying as much as possible to ensure that people wear face masks. In Germany, like he said, people are it's mandatory to wear it, especially if you're going on a public bus, for example. I'll tell you what the figures are when I return from this break. Wait. I promised to bring you the figures of how we're doing as far as COVID-19 across the world are. But if you want to know what's happening here in Ghana, it's right there on the screen. Take a look at it. It actually has a global figure. We're nearing 3 million of cases right now. So those are the figures there for you. We'll give you the source as well so you can get to the source and get the details. Right now, let's have that big conversation about education. like I said, education, they say, is the key. But even that, which is key, has had to give way to COVID-19. We'll have some stories that we'll be taking you through. We'll also have the Deputy Minister for Education standing by. I see that some of you have sent in your messages already. Well, let's start with this story. It's been more than a month since President Akufo-Addo imposed that ban on public gatherings, forcing schools, churches, and other places of public places to shut down. It is in response, of course, as you know, to the spread of coronavirus in this country, which has now infected more than 1,500 people, and 11 lives have been claimed. In our series on how education has been affected by the COVID-19 outbreak, we begin with the basic level. Deputy Education Minister, like I said, Dr. Yaw Duchum will be joining me for that conversation. First, though, I'll take you to Abuabo in Ashanti Regional Capital, Kumasi, as we assess how basic school people are coping with online studies there a month on.
At Abuaso in the Ashanti region, I met Asmao, a parent. Her home chores begin just after Islamic dawn prayers. She sweeps, fetches water and washes clothes. She supervises her children to take their bath and have breakfast. The missing link, however, is they are not going to school, and she has little to offer them by way of teaching.
English, math, any dictation.
The daily routine for children now is jumping from one playground to the other. It has been the case since the president ordered closure of all schools indefinitely to prevent spread of the coronavirus. The Ministry of Education and Ghana Education Service have secured agreements with the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation on a 24-hour for broadcasting of education materials. The free-to-air dedicated channel known as Ghana Learning TV began on 3rd April 2020. The multimedia group had been running a similar channel known as Joy Learning. But what has been the response of the targeted group? Khalid Al-Hassan is a JHS student.
What I've been taught in school, I don't know anything about TV learning.
Farida is an SHS student.
I've heard about learning TV, but I haven't watched before. I have a clue about it.
People's teacher, Satar Sibawe, though loves the idea, he thinks it's not enough.
What about the basic, the basic pupils or the basic ones? You know, you and I know the foundation is the most important thing. When you are climbing an education ladder, the foundation is very important. So people who are in JHS and then primary also need equally as what the SHS people need.
Senior high schools due to sit for the Basic Education Certificate Examination and West African Senior Secondary Certificate Examination respectively remains in limbo. GES has ordered suspension of all academic activities, while the West African Examination Council has put on hold all examinations. At the tertiary level, however, teaching and learning approach is different. Students have access to lecture notes through emails and instant messaging platform, WhatsApp. Same platforms are used for mid and end of semester exams as well as thesis as part of final assessment. Government announcement of virtual learning platform Zoom came with little or no surprise because some institutions had already piloted similar projects. Dr. Henry Kofi Mensah is head of Department of Human Resource and Organizational Development, KNUST Institute of Distance Learning.
Moodle has actually worked very well for us, and we have actually optimized, educational results using the Moodle.
Lecturer at the Chemistry Department, Dr. Akwesie Champon, agrees.
It's a pretty good learning system software, very, very good. And it also supports face-to-face. So normally it's used by the distant learning modules, can also use this one. And teachers can manage their own platform. Okay, you decide what you want to do with your platform, what you want to put there for your students, what you don't want to put there.
Well, obviously, the situation is not limited to Kumasi. In Techiman, in the Bono East region, many pupils have been seen loitering, selling in the market instead of staying glued to their TV sets to study.
We are in Mampus Line, the most densely populated electoral area within the Techiman municipality of the Bono East region. Now, since the closure of schools by government as a result of the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic, an alternative e-learning platform has been rolled out to facilitate teaching and learning for school-going kids across the country. This afternoon, we want to find out from some school-going kids who are currently spending a chunk of their times at home how they are coping with a break and whether they are aware that there's an e-learning platform rolled out by government. First, let's find out if these kids know what COVID-19 is all about and why they are currently asked to stay home.
Because of the COVID-19. The COVID-19 is germs. So if it touch your hands, then I touch like wood or any plastic thing. Then you two come and touch. You two, you shall get some. Then it is spread. It's spread over. Because of that, they say we should stay home. Because of COVID-19. And like if you go to school and anyone is affected with the COVID-19, you can get it. So they said that we should not go to school.
Some of the kids we've been speaking with are hearing about the e-learning platform for the first time. And so to most of these kids, they are not aware that there's any available means to get themselves engaged in terms of studies since the closure of the schools.
Because I'm not having computer or smartphones to do that. I'm not doing that, the internet studies. So I'm doing my own classes in the house.
Fortunately for some of these kids, their schools send them assignments through their parents, and one of them tells me this is helping him cope with the current situation.
I learn through WhatsApp, this homework on the WhatsApp. Then I'll type the correct one. Then my father will send it to our headmaster. Then you mark me. If I'm wrong, then you tell me. If I'm correct, then you send me again.
Ali is a junior high school student of the Goshen School Complex. For him, his inability to access the e-learning platform is because he is not having smartphone or a computer to enable him use the e-learning platform.
I've never used it before because I don't use phones. I don't use laptop and those things. That's why. Because I'm not having these tools to learn, so I'm really affected.
Unlike Ellie, Abigail has a smartphone. Unfortunately for Abigail, she's not having the money to purchase data for this particular service on daily basis.
You see, our parents need to work before they give us money so we can buy the airtime we need to access the internet. So we have to wait until our parents give us the money so that we can access information through the money they give us to buy all the internet. So I don't have enough money to buy all the data I have to use.
As it stands, Abigail would have to either study on her own or solely rely on the Joy Learning TV channel as a means of coping with the situation.
Sometimes I learn on my own, and sometimes I watch the Joy Learning channel on the television.
Are they excited with the fact that schools are currently on break, or do they wish to get back to school soon? Listen to the response from some of these kids.
We want to go back to school because if you are home, if you learn, you can't learn like you are in school. Your friends, they will tell you that go and play, so you can't learn. I'm tired and fed up staying at home.
Instead of staying there, so I just want to go. I want the sickness to go away, and then I can go to school and go and study. We are tired of staying in the house. We need to go to school.
From Mampusi Line here in the Techiman South municipality of the Bono East region, I am Anas Sabit for JoyNews.
Great report by Anas Sabit from the Bono East region there. Joining me on Zoom is Deputy Minister for Education, very constant guest here on the show, Dr. Yawo Dichum. Doc, it's good to see you. It's been a very long time.
It's been a long time. These are not normal times.
Not at all. I'm sure that you're following the report. I have one more for you, though.
Okay, sure.
Right. So this is a report that Maxwell Agbagba put together from Choco. E-learning or no learning at all. Take a look.
Toko is a fishing community here in the greater Accra region. On a Friday when you come here, there are a lot of activities. Now, some of the children here will be in school studying. Some of them also, of course, will be at the beach helping their parents with fishing activities. But that is not the case today. All the children today, around this time, this Friday afternoon, are at home because schools are closed. I'm here to meet the Crab family. I'm here to basically find out from them how the children here have been studying. There are about 13 children in this small home. First of all, let me start with Teki. Teki, right? Dorcas. Okay, Dorcas. Do you enjoy being at home?
No.
Okay.
But I have friends online, so sometimes we learn online.
Okay.
They send me some questions, I answer them online. But I actually want to go to school because I feel bored sitting at home.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Raymond Kakraba.
Raymond Kakraba. Which school do you attend?
Mamplowi Soko 88 Basic School at Girls School.
Okay. How has it been like being at home?
Not well. My school did not get touch with me.
So what have you been doing at home?
Just playing, and sometimes I read my books.
Okay. Do you know that you can go online to go and access questions and some other things?
Yes.
Okay. But do you go, or you don't have internet, or you don't have computer?
I don't have any of them. I don't have internet and computers.
Okay. So you can't learn online?
Yes.
So they say na me I banna.
Okay.
Tana trashi. Ba nye keke. She's says we lebe nwa me gwa meti. Shone amba shia.
Okay. Well, she's saying that she's worried because the children here are not going to school now because schools are obviously closed. She says previously she would have given them money to go for studies, but that is not the case now. And she's worried that they're at home idle, not really doing anything relating to studies. No, oh yeah, five from a cool, you know, I can't abide any. I mean,
I go there five. Couldn't become a bone school, yeah. I can she no more back. Now make a say I'm a knee. I can make me a fetch more cobble.
Okay.
I make a say,
okay.
I make Jomumba say.
Okay. Well, she's also quite disturbed about the situation. She says they are retrogressing in terms of their studies. They are no longer progressing, and she's appealing to government if something can be done about the situation.
Akaya school na metashian. They study school ni afeni ameya. Ameka say loko ika mencha metashian meke o. Ama akwa me books amake ameka say ni. Bro ana me no. Ame bolo ke ni bi. Ade. Oka fe gba ona.
Well, Chef Warren, she says that the children have resorted to personal studies, but even when they pick their books and they say they're going to learn, it ends up in fights and disagreements. You find them, you know, they start playing around, joking around, and then doing things that are not related to studies. You know, since I'm a Batasha, I'm a teacher, I'm a contact here, I have a homework, your WhatsApp, a low internet, a low local.
Dabi, no look where I know, I have homework. You be an I can't tell it's not homework new. Or bet Nakania Konika, a homework, and a mamma mania, mena, you couldn't make a see. Or be anyone back, one with their fire kitchen. If you look on Bian, we can be a Tasha may ask where be an. Now, me make a look of you. Could I make the morning? It pays any be an any back. If I can be a community or Bamelini, be an cat. Oh, I tell you, book no can make. I mean, I make it. When I have a domon, but she won't probably won't pack up to finish you look where I will
be. She wants government to intervene. She feels that the children are retrogressing in terms of their studies. She says they do not have access to internet or to the computer to be able to follow teaching and learning online. But they want government to intervene in the situation because she feels that the children here are retrogressing in terms of their studies. No, Amabi.
So before we start talking with the minister, let's take a look at the interventions rolled out by governments to ensure that education continues despite the shutdown. So first of all, the Education Ministry tells us that there's an online study platform created for all senior high school students via the icampusgh.com. So that's icampusgh.com. There's also free-to-air 24-hour channel dedicated for broadcast of educational materials on GTV. Learning programs will be rolled out on all mediums. They tell us radio, television, and online. At least we know about the GTV one. Which other radio have you heard? You know, have you heard from the Education Ministry that has to do with education? Well, you can join me with your comment. Especially, I invite you to share your experience of how you are coping in these times of COVID-19 as far as education is concerned. I've asked some of you to send me your messages on how you're doing, what questions you have for the Deputy Minister who is joining us right this minute. I'll share with you some of the thoughts that you've shared so far. We'll be raising the Minister on Zoom once again so we can have that conversation. What do we do about people who don't have access to a laptop, for example, people who don't have access to a smartphone, for example? How do those people learn? Most of the things you're sending me has to do with when the BEC and the SSC student will go back to school. Those who are especially preparing for exams, how will they go back to school? That's a question I'm putting to the Deputy Education Minister right now, who is joining us via Zoom from his office. Doc, thank you so much for your patience and for hanging on all this while. So essentially, we have a background from which to start our conversation from. I do have some questions here which I'll put to you, but I'd like for you to first assess the interventions that the Education Ministry has put through already. How is it working?
Let me take this opportunity to thank you for inviting me and also to I say hello to your wonderful audience. I want to congratulate our teachers in various communities who have, as they always do, really stepped up and have done some innovative things. A student in Techima was talking about how questions are sent to him and how the father makes sure he answers them and sends it back to the headmaster.
Okay, it looks like I've lost.
Benedicta.
All right, so we're going to fix that up right there. A little bit of an interesting confusion there, but it's okay. It's okay. We can deal with this, can't we? We'll wait and get the minister to respond to the question that I had for him earlier on. He's just trying to fix this up. These are not normal times. That's what we mean when we say these are not normal times. Okay, so we get it fixed up. But most of you are sending questions. Your concerns are that when will the BEC student get back to school, those who need to write? When will the SSC student get back to school when they need to write? And some of the questions already coming in says, but it says, I have observed with great concern that there is an act carried out by the retailers of nose masks. Okay, you're talking about nose masks, and are asked to wear all the time. These retailers sell the masks which are not covered by anything. So they're selling the masks in the open and trying to get us to buy them and wear it. Immediately we buy it. Okay, I got Dr. Edichum back on the Zoom with us. Let's see how this goes. All right. Certainly, these are not normal times, Doc. We totally understand. We totally understand. And I'm sure Benedicta understands too. So let's go on. You were telling us, Doc, about the teachers that you believe have stepped up and who you are congratulating. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I was saying that across the country, there are pockets of innovation. And we need to congratulate our teachers. If you look at what the student from Techima was saying, the head teacher sends questions to them and they answer, and the father sends it back to the head teacher and they give him feedback as to whether he's right or wrong. And those are attributes that we need to commend. That directive did not come from the Ghana Education Service, but the head teacher took the initiative and began to look at what he can do to support the children in his community. Let me tell you this, the Ghana Education Service has stepped up in the face of this coronavirus situation. They stepped up by making sure they quickly deployed the content from the distance education and open learning organization called Sendlos, and they were able to use the content from there immediately in partnership with GTV to begin to ensure that the students will have access to top-of-the-line content. In fact, lab activities and others have been prepared by Sendlos, and these are made available not just on TV, but also, aside from the TV, is the iCampus, where there are more activities for students to work on. Now, knowing that nobody prepared for COVID-19, what they've done is to immediately put content together for the primary and junior high school. As I speak with you, our teachers have been recruited across the country, and they are quickly putting content together that can be deployed on GTV so that students can have access to it. I fully understand that under the circumstances where nobody knew how the world was going to be in 2020, it will not be perfect. There are situations where we'll see inequity playing out right in front of us. And I saw a student who was talking about how he's using his books and he's learning from his books. Under some circumstances, things may not be perfect. But when I look at the documentaries you put together, I have hope. I have hope. A parent from Abu Abu who was saying that he is able to teach her children here and there, bit by bit. Not very well educated, but she's doing her very best. This has brought to the fore parent participation in education, something that until this time we're just preaching about. Parents are stepping up, and across the country, not a perfect situation at all, but our parents are doing their very best to help their children learn so that they don't get left behind. GS is also doing its very best under the direction of the minister to ensure that access is open up to the vast majority of our students, so that they will not be, the students will not be left behind. So as you can see, it is not all bad news. In the face of COVID-19, some good things are happening. Of course, it's not perfect, but we believe that parents are stepping up and teachers and headmasters are stepping up, and Ghana Education Service is doing a very good job at this time.
About some of the questions I'm getting, there's one theme that's running through a number of questions that I have seen on my platform at the moment. Everybody seems to be concerned about when the BEC and the SSC students will go back to school. I know it's not clear to us, but perhaps there's been some conversation behind the scenes. Tell us.
I just want them to know that the President of the Republic is doing a fantastic job, not because he's the president who is on the ticket of my party, but he's a president who has really done more than anybody expected of any president around the world. When he first said that he knows how to make sure that the economy gets reinvented, get brought back, but he doesn't know how to bring people back. He cannot resurrect people who we lose. So he's going to do everything. He followed it up with so many innovations. Talking about the 3-week lockdown support that had to be provided to a number of people. He is doing everything possible to make sure that he saves his people. And he is a distinguished individual with stellar leadership qualities, and it's being used at this time to the great benefit of our nation. Now, schools were ordered to close for very good reason, for the obvious reason. Can you imagine? One classroom, one student getting infected and spreading it to the rest of the students and taking it back home, we can wipe out the whole community. So it was in the right direction. We are not out of the woods yet, as the president rightly said, the last address to the nation, that he's monitoring everything at the appropriate time. He will evaluate restrictions that have been imposed. This is not the time to talk about, am I going to school tomorrow? Rightly so, the lockdown has been removed, but the lockdown removal does not mean we're out of the woods. And so I'll urge parents, students, to be patient. Patient because the president will not like to put a single life in harm's way. At the appropriate time, schools will be opened. I believe in the resiliency of Ghanaian children and Ghanaian teachers and the innovativeness of their approaches, and we'll be able to catch up at the right time when schools open. So we should all be patient. We should do our very best to make sure their books are home you read, wherever you can do, to stay abreast of knowledge so that we can minimize learning loss. As is occasion, even during vacation, there's a huge learning loss. This is the time that we are consciously aware that we should avoid learning loss. So I applaud parents, but we are not out of the woods, to use the words of the president. And therefore, relax and understand that at the appropriate time, schools will open and we'll go back. We'll pick it up from where we left off. The pieces will be picked up, and I'm sure we'll be up to speed, and education will come back. All right. And we'll do our very best to make sure that children catch up with each other and with the rest of the world. Everybody's at a standstill, so we shouldn't worry at this time.
Yeah, right. So I will, because you have said that, I wanted to move the conversation to what we are doing whilst we are waiting. What can people do, those who don't have laptops? You hear some of the children say they don't have laptops. Some of them, they have parents who can't even guide them through because they are not internet savvy. They don't have a smartphone. What do those people do? And I have a typical question here someone has sent to me that captures my question. I'll just read it to you. He's sending it from Hohoi. He says, he says, Gifty, ask Doc for me. If the person is at the village, how can he learn online? If the person even doesn't have light in his village, how is it going to come to town and go back? Most of the children, question is a bit tricky, but he's saying essentially that if you don't have light, I was even talking about internet, but this one is talking about having light in the first place, not having it in the village. Is there a comprehensive program by the Ghana Education Service to reach the remotest part of the country where access to internet is terrible, even access to power is almost non-existent?
I'll tell you this, Gifty. These are valid questions, and I can empathize with them. But I grew up in the rural area where there were no lights. So I can understand. But bottom line is this. The good news is that a number of these children have books at home. It's our duty as parents to begin to make the best out of what we may call is not up to par with the rest of other students in other areas. Take the books, let the children read. You'll be amazed that this may be the first time they've seen their parents getting so much interested in them. And if the parents begin to dialogue with them, that I understand you don't have electricity here, we don't have this here. I don't want you to fall behind. Therefore, pick up your books, and every day I'm going to make sure that you read. A child who reads 30 minutes a day will get ahead of his peers, even if they were learning online. Let me tell you this, the resiliency of students and parents when they come together and they're determined in the face of odds, and they say to themselves, in spite of this, we'll do our very best to catch up with the rest. They will do well. So yes, it's not the optimum, but we don't have to throw our hands up in the air. Get your children to bring out their books and tell them that I may not understand what is in this book, but trust that you learn something from this, and can you please begin to read every day and do something from the books that you have brought home. Yes, it's not the optimum, but I believe that they will not be so far left behind, and they will be able to catch up, because determination can help us overcome some odds that may be up against us in a way that we can't even imagine. So I would just encourage them that it's not the end of the world. It's a bad situation. We may not have electricity in your town before the COVID-19 is eradicated, and therefore make use of the best resource that you have at your disposal, and that is the books that you have with you at home.
For you, this question as well. It says, in fact, the president should have opened the basic schools yesterday and make them enforce physical distancing. Those of us in the villages have noticed that the children are even more exposed at home than when they were in schools. It is coming from Desmond in Techre. I don't know where that is. He says to also ask you, what is government doing about private school teachers' salaries since lockdown?
Yeah, there's something about leading a country. I know the president gets this all the time. He has all the facts about the virus, how it spreads, and the reason why he also made a decision that the school should be closed down. So Desmond, all that I'm going to tell you is this: at the appropriate time, where the risk is no longer there, our schools will be closed. The president will not put any life at risk at this time by opening schools when he very well knows that the situation is not safe. At the right time, our schools will open, and no life will be put at risk. And I think that is the most important thing. And there was a question about private schools.
Yes.
I have not received any requests from any private school at the Ministry of Education. I haven't seen anything here. I hear the association, some of the associations are indicating that they are talking to other government departments, but there's no request there. What I'll tell you is this: our public schools are public schools. Their salary is the responsibility of the government. Private schools, if there are any petitions to the government, I'm sure we have a listening government, and the government will dialogue with them and see how best they can be helped. But you also know if a private school is registered as a company, and there are some loans that are coming for businesses, I don't see why that organization may not be able to talk to the banks and say that I will create a business. Private school is a business, even if you're dealing with children, and how can you help me? So I don't think anybody should leave themselves out. When the other businesses are being supported, they should also be able to talk to their bankers about what may be out there for them that I may not be able to know at this time.
Okay. Abdul Fattah is sending this from Wale Wale. He says, I have more than 150 senior high school students, and what I currently do is I call some of, he says, is what I have initiated is calling some few of those students whom I have identified to be academically sound, engaging them as a form of revision. I am sometimes overstretched to attend to the selected few via phone calls. So he selected those he believes are academically sound. What happens to those who are not academically sound, like some of us when we started junior high school? And even that is overstretched.
He's doing his own thing to help, but the terminologies is somehow confusing and disturbing. I think it is those who are not sound that need the help the most at this time, and not so much those he's characterizing as academically sound. But the good news, though, is that as an individual, he's volunteering his service and he's doing something. And I think I will commend him and then ask him, ask others to do the same to help other students. And these efforts are the efforts that I was commended at the beginning, that we have different people who are really and truly doing their very best to help their communities, and they ought to be commended.
Is there a way that government can support persons like this? I mean, teachers, if it's even focused on the public schools, teachers who are reaching out, you know, through e-learning platforms. Is there any support for them, for example? And I've had this question, which I think ties into it with it beautifully. I'll just read it to you. It says, I'd like to know what GIFEC is doing in these times to ensure that most rural communities have internet, or at least internet center for the rural folks to access. So say a community center where people can converge, young people can converge because they have internet.
I mean, you're talking about social distancing. Converging at a location is, of course, out of the question. But I'll tell you that GIFEC and Minister Honorable Ursula also Kufo is doing some good things. I mean, there are a number of communities that have been given access to the internet, and also computers have been given to a number of schools. But, you know, nobody prepared themselves for this eventuality that we are dealing with. And of course, some things may go very well, others may not be. That is not to say that we should not strive to do a better job. I think what this has done, as the president said in his last speech, talking about the gaps that we've seen in healthcare, we're also seeing the gaps in education through connectivity. And these are things that we are doing everything possible and will continue to do to make sure that technology will be utilized for the benefit of all, irrespective of where they live and their location in this country.
What are we going to do about adjustment of the calendar, of the student calendar? You've indicated that the whole world is at a standstill, so people, you know, who are concerned about writing the exams, etc., should relax. In Ghana, what sort of realignment is the ministry discussing so that when COVID-19 is over, we return to normalcy?
I'll tell you one thing. Various places around the world have two different things. And of course, at the appropriate time, the president will give us the green light in which as to which way to go for the final year students. In the UK, they cancelled the final exams for their what equivalent of the GCE and A levels. They use continuous assessment. In other jurisdictions, different approaches have been adopted, and I'm sure, depending upon how long this is going to take for us to weather the storm, different proposals that have been made, of course, will be given to the president, and the president will decide and give us direction as to where we should go. But at the appropriate time, I'm sure the good people of this country will hear from the president regarding his vision for the continuation of education systems and also what needs to be done for BEC and also for WASI candidates across the country.
Okay. I have, I think, about 3 more questions, then we can call it a wrap. There is someone asking about promotion results or results for teacher promotion exams. They're asking when is that going to be ready. I don't know if you have the answer to that. They're also asking about when teachers' salaries will be paid. I read the question a while back. I don't know if I got it accurate, but please go ahead.
I'll let you know these are not normal times, so they should relax. And at that time, Ghana Education Service will come out. I know before the lockdown, they were working on it feverishly to get it out. Lockdown came, they had to stop everything. So people should come a little bit and wait. It will be done. Ghana Education Service promised to ensure that promotion exams and its related activities were done promptly. they were on track before lockdown and other things came up where they have to let the employees go home. So at the appropriate time, it will be coming. I just want them to understand that we are not in normal times, but they are doing, Ghana Education Service is doing its very best to make sure that its stakeholders are served appropriately.
Someone is asking whether you have quantified, you have any statistics, or you've done any work that gives you statistics on how many people have access to the e-learning platform that the Education Ministry has provided and how many don't, so that you can tailor your interventions accordingly.
Yeah, I will tell you this. We'll have to work with the TV systems, ETV, to see if they have a rating system that will enable us to get the numbers that are watching. But besides that, we know we can easily get the data on the iCampus. I don't have it with me, but that's something that we can make available to your station so that you can put it on your website. That's very easy. We can find out how many people have logged into the iCampus and get you the numbers.
Various education districts, educational directorates across the country can put together the details that they have. Is there the possibility of working through them? Because then they will be on the ground. GTV, for example, can give you the number of people who have watched. And if you also have to bring in the private sector, here on the multi-TV platform, we also have the Joy Learning platform. So perhaps we can also give you details of those who are perhaps have the boxes, but we won't be able to give you, say, those who are watching exactly that one. GTV won't be able to tell you, but perhaps on the ground, they can bring you the specific details.
It all comes down to this emergency that we are in. Who are you deploying? It's not that simple. So we are making do with something that may not be the most optimal kind of arrangement. But the good news is that centers of innovation and pockets of innovation are springing up across the country, and they are doing their very best under very difficult circumstances. And I want to applaud those individuals who are becoming more innovative and helping their communities.
Doc, I say very big thanks to you, but if you do have any final words, we'd love to take them. I know that we'll have another of this session. Well, looks like I lost him even before I asked for the final words. But Dr. Yao Asseyedu-Twum is the Deputy Education Minister. Always takes time to answer your questions when we bring him in. He's been answering a number of questions that you've sent to us. We've put them to him as well. Hopefully, we can do this another time. I'm going to take a very quick break. When I return, we'll do Frontline. Welcome to Frontline, a program or a section of the program where we focus on those at the front lines of this fight. So as the world battles the coronavirus pandemic, which has now claimed over 200,000 lives, health workers continue to brave the odds to offer patients some lifeline. More than 10,000 of them have, however, succumbed to the disease. As we build up to our broadcast of our latest documentary, Inside a Treatment Center Tonight, Komla Adom puts the spotlight on Life at the Front Lines, which features two doctors at the University of Ghana Medical Center who are giving it all up to offer medical care to persons with coronavirus at the facility.
Many times, doctors, nurses, and other health workers feel invulnerable, but it is hard for them now to see their colleagues who have caught the coronavirus die in other jurisdictions. But it is a commitment to serve humanity that is keeping hope alive, and it shows how brave these people are for showing up every day and doing their work.
My medical director in particular cares about the people, and while his jurisdiction is the doctor, so I can speak only as a doctor, and they make sure that you take care of yourself. I have one colleague who, as we say in Chinga, it's not many just Dr. Susan Siabi, but she makes sure that I do the right thing. Sometimes I forget I'm going to hug someone and said, I'm a social distancing or this, or I'm a, you look tired. We look out for each other. Someone doesn't see you for a couple of days, you get a call to make sure that everything is okay.
am Komla Adum, and I have come to the University of Ghana Medical Center, where I have been granted exclusive access to visit the treatment facility for persons with COVID-19. I meet Dr. Emmanuel Amoah and Dr. Amma Edwin, who are directly offering care to some of the patients in this facility. Before they go into the treatment facility, they need to be appropriately gowned. In fact, personal protective equipment, what we famously call PPEs, are precious now, probably counted like narcotics. But it is for good reason. We're about to find out how much.
We are going to wear our full PPE. The reason is simple. When we go in there and then anybody needs any care, because we are in full PPE, we can offer the level of care, the needed care for every patient. If you are not fully donned, then when you go in, there may be some procedures you may not be able to do because we are not in the appropriate personal protective equipment.
But Dr. Amoah and Dr. Edwin do not don their PPEs unguided.
We have supervisors here whose sole responsibility is to make sure that healthcare workers are donned properly before they go to offer service. So they will read you the steps and you dress appropriately before they can tell you that now you are okay to go. So now we are going to turn you today also to frontline health workers, possibly give you the full PPE for you to appreciate what healthcare workers go through when they need to offer care for COVID-19 patients.
You know me, I told you that I'm up for this, so no problem at all. I'm ready to also, don the PPEs. It's going to be a revealing, experience for me as well. What you are seeing now is a session where the doctors are donning their full PPEs, of course being supervised by people who are designated to supervise the donning of the PPEs. As you can see, it's actually not a child's play here. I did not check the timer, but this careful and thorough process lasted more than 30 minutes for us all. I have to tell you that it's not an easy process. My camera technician, Sami Asante, is here with me. Sami, are you sure you can breathe?
I'm managing.
And I'm going to go in the treatment area with Sami Asante, also with Dr. Emmanuel Amoah and Dr. Amma Edwin. Come with us. These doctors and nurses do not just walk in and out of a treatment facility.
You have to plan the care. What exactly are we going to do in there? So that when you go in with, let's say, a doctor and a nurse, you'll finish all that has to be done for the patients before you come out. Because we want as minimum exposure as possible.
Dr. Amma Edwin has taken the lead. She's interacting with some of the patients and probably seeking their consent to have us come by.
We have some of our patients here who are willing to talk to you.
These two patients are doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing better. Yeah, sure, everything is going well and we are under the treatment and we are getting better.
I actually wasn't breathing properly, so I had to come in so that they can monitor me properly with oxygen and so on, support.
Akai and Polo, as I choose to call them, say the health workers, including Dr. Amoah and Edwin, have been truly helpful.
As I'm here for past 1 week now. I was suffering a breathlessness, but because of the doctor's team over here and the staff management, I'm getting better over here.
Oh, doing well. The doctors have been very supportive, and the jacks have been working, so we're fine.
It's been several hours.
You want to catch the full documentary inside a treatment center tonight on the JoyNews channel right here. We are free to air, remember? So tell your friends to tell their friends to tell their girlfriends and their boyfriends and their family members to watch at 8:30. It's certainly intriguing and it'll give you an idea what our health personnel go through. So you stop, people who do so, stop stigmatizing them, and also patients as well. So after they do all of these, what do we tell them? Listen.
I think now, Frontline, we have a lot of definitions. But now, if we limit ourselves to COVID-19, then I think everybody, you even standing here, you are also frontliner. So all the frontliners, nurses, doctors, so military, the police, and everybody who is into the fight of this COVID-19, I say I equal to them for the wonderful work they have started doing, continue doing, and they will continue to do. I pray and plead that they shouldn't relent on their efforts, because it is a fight that we all need to put in our maximum effort and strength. It is not over until it is over. So all frontliners, we say God bless you, but let's continue to fight harder.
You know, we talk about heroes and heroines and so on, and these are the people who are sacrificing every day to go to work to combat this virus. It's not an easy thing. Knowing that you are leaving the house, you may or may not get infected. There's a 50-50 chance, but yet they do go. And for that, as a nation, we are really grateful. They have done very well in sacrificing. I hear some have even come out of retirement to help, you know, handle the situation. So to all the health workers, we are very grateful.
I mean, the message to the frontline health workers to me is really, I would like first to commend their job. I think they've been doing a great job since this outbreak of COVID-19. I want them to continue to support and to help all the patients. And we would all pray so that this does not last too much, and make sure that they continue their hard work. And I also want to make sure that, their family continue to support them. But like I said from the beginning, the frontline people are the health workers today on this COVID-19 thing. But we are all part of it, So we should all support them and bring whatever we can to make their job easy as we go forward.
On behalf of the people of Accra, I wish to thank our frontline officers who have been at the forefront of the fight against this COVID-19. Our special thanks to the health workers, doctors and nurses, and all allied workers. Our military and police had done a yeoman job by maintaining high security in our communities. The media personnel that had also been all this while dedicated their time to educate and inform the citizenry how to act in a more responsible manner. And all other workers, including us as politicians, who have had sleepless nights and promised to serve the people of Accra, being on the front line. I'd like to thank all of you once again for your continued service to the state, and I want to repeat what His Excellency the President said. This too shall pass. Thank you.
And that's it for Frontline, and I can't say it better than all those people. We'll keep honoring you here. Those of you at the front lines, we'll keep dedicating this time to you, to hear your stories, to share your stories, your concerns with the rest of the world, to seek answers, and to also encourage you. This has been Frontline. Now that we're through with Frontline, how do you keep yourself protected? If you're one of those looking for ways to stay healthy and prevent contracting the deadly coronavirus infection, here is some good news for you. The Ghana Health Services X can help boost your immune system and help you better fight the disease. Kojo Youngson of our health desk has more.
Eggs are cheap, and they are consumed by many people around the world. But they are also a powerhouse of disease-fighting nutrients like lutein and zeaxanthin. The Ghana Health Service says it is a great source of immune booster to help deal with the current outbreak of COVID-19. One egg has only 75 calories, but contains 7 grams of high protein, 5 grams of fat, and 1.6 grams of saturated fat, along with iron, vitamins, minerals, and carotenoids. Deputy Director in charge of nutrition at the Ghana Health Service, Esi Amofol, wants Ghanaians to consume more eggs in this period of disease outbreak.
As the numbers of the positive cases go up, we are keeping a large number of people in a number of isolation centers. They are given meals throughout the day, and as in all disease situations, even though today we don't have data on foods that can reduce your risk of COVID-19 infection, we do know by science that good nutrition is a foundation of good health, and most importantly, for boosting your immunity. And what better time we do want your immunity to be high than a time like this. So we believe that this will go a long way to improve the quality of the meals that are being provided at the various treatment centers and the isolation centers. And I want to take this opportunity and ask the general populace that they should make sure that they are eating nutritionally adequate meals. And egg provide a very good source of protein and other key nutrients that the body needs. So they should make egg part of their diet, and it's healthy.
You need no more arguments, I'm sure. Eggs are cheap, like Ojo says in that report. Get it and let's stay safe. Well, this is where we have to bring you Let's Talk Showbiz. But there is more news at myjoyonline.com. If you do log on, we'll bring you the fuller version of that story also on JoyNews Prime. Log on to myjoyonline.com. My name is Gifty and Apia. Thank you so much for making the time.